When we read the ancient biblical protocols for leprosy, our modern instinct is to look for a medical pathology or a primitive public health strategy. But the text is mapping a reality that has nothing to do with modern dermatology. The Hebrew term tzara'ath identifies a visible rupture in the created order. It is the intrusion of decreation and decay into a space designed for life. This map illustrates the camp of Israel as a portable Eden. God's earthly throne room radiates concentric rings of sacred order against the chaotic wilderness. Any corruption mimicking death triggers a spatial crisis, forcing the decay outside the boundary into the dark wilderness. Biblical defilement is a struggle over cosmic geography. It dictates who has the legal right to inhabit sacred space and who must be removed to the realm of the accuser. In the legislation of Leviticus 13 and 14, God does not appoint physicians. No medicine is prescribed, and the priests are never instructed to perform surgery or offer therapeutic treatments. This parchment highlights the verbs that define the priest's role. He functions as an epistemic guardian, a judge of reality. He is commanded to look, to examine, and to wait, ensuring the community interprets the world through divine revelation, rather than human fear or assumption. If the priest observes active corruption, he executes a spatial mandate. The person is immediately exiled outside the camp, severed from the sacred center. The priest protects the camp by legally condemning the defiled to the wilderness, placing them in the realm of the ritually dead. In the historical narratives of the Old Testament, tzara'ath functions as God's visible judicial sign of internal covenant rebellion. When Miriam challenged God's appointed mediator in Numbers 12, she was struck with an immediate catastrophic outbreak of leprosy. Her exile for 7 days enacted the Levitical mandate precisely, demonstrating a measured form of covenant discipline before she was eventually restored to the community. The story of Gehazi in 2 Kings 5 offers a sharper contrast. He attempted to commodify divine grace by deceiving the Syrian commander Naaman for personal profit. Gehazi's judgment was absolute. He inherited the very affliction Naaman left behind, thrusting the Israelite insider into the exilic wastelands while the Gentile outsider was cleansed. Proximity to the tabernacle provided no immunity. tzara'ath served as an active mechanism to exile those who challenged God's order or distorted his grace. The most severe instance of judicial leprosy occurs with King Uzziah. In 2 Chronicles 26, a king blinded by his own political success attempts to seize a glory that was never his to take. Uzziah bypassed the priests and violently intruded into the holy place to burn incense at the golden altar, a role strictly reserved for the consecrated sons of Aaron. God responded with anatomical precision. As the king stood by the altar, leprosy broke out on his forehead, the exact location where the high priest wore the plate declaring holiness to the Lord. The counterfeit priest became a public spectacle. Uzziah was forced to live in an isolated house, permanently excluded from the house of the Lord until the day he died. Earthly power cannot overwrite the boundaries of sacred space. Unlawful entry into God's presence guarantees immediate and permanent spatial exclusion. Beyond judgment, God uses the condition of leprosy to humiliate the powers of chaos through a form of divine subversion. In 2 Kings 7, 4 starving lepers sat at the gates of Samaria. They were trapped at the threshold, ritually dead and legally disqualified from the society they were trying to save. This is a divine taunt. God deliberately chooses the most contaminated and unlikely agents to accomplish his purposes. These outcasts crossed the threshold into the Aramean camp and became the first heralds of the city's deliverance. By using the exiled to proclaim salvation, God shamed the religious elite and demonstrated that grace flows through the very people society had cast out. The New Testament appends the spatial logic of Leviticus. Under the Old Law, uncleanness was violently contagious, requiring strict quarantine to protect the sacred center. When Jesus descends the mountain in Matthew 8 to meet a leper, 2 cosmic rules collide. We see a reversed contagion. Because Christ is the true temple, his holiness does not contract defilement. Instead, it expands outward, consuming and annihilating the impurity of the leper. Jesus immediately commands the man, "Go, show yourself to the priest." By sending the man to the priest, Jesus forces the Aaronic priesthood to engage the specific cleansing protocols of Leviticus 14. The priests are now legally bound to certify that the healing is real, effectively certifying that the Messiah has arrived. The Levitical system, designed to observe and quarantine death, is forced to become a legally binding witness to its own fulfillment. This spatial map shows Jesus traveling through the contested borderlands of Samaria. The holy presence of God is moving outward into the places of exile. There, 10 lepers cry out from a distance. Jesus commands them to show themselves to the priests, and as they walk, they all receive physical and ritual restoration. Only one man, a Samaritan foreigner, returns to fall at Jesus' feet. The linguistic breakdown reveals why his response is different. While the others were cleansed, this man received something more comprehensive. To the Samaritan alone, Jesus uses the verb sozo. The 9 received physical relief, but this man was made entirely whole. The biblical spectrum is now complete. Uzziah, the powerful insider who seized the sacred center, was cast into the wastelands. The Samaritan, the outcast in the wastelands, bowed to the king and inherited the kingdom. The cleansing rituals of the law were designed to return the outcast to the presence of God. The Samaritan proves that the true meeting place between God and humanity is no longer a building, but the person of Jesus Christ.